Hey there, my name is Cole Warner, and I'm one of the grief counselors with Hospice of Davidson County. I hope you're all doing well and staying in contact with each other even during this time of isolation. Today, I'm going to come and talk about what grief is, what grieving can look like, and what are some of the issues if we don't allow ourselves to grieve properly. So, grief can come in many forms. Really, what we're talking about is losing something profound in your life. Grief can be anything from what we're going through right now in this pandemic. It can be losing someone to a disease or to some type of accident. Any of those things can be considered grief, and that's what we're talking about today. Grieving properly is one of those terms that you'll hear a lot. Really, there's no one right way to grieve, and it's really important that you don't try and tell yourself that you have to be feeling a certain way. So I run some groups in schools in our area, and one of the things that we often hear is people are saying, well, I was told I should feel this way, or I should be over this by now. And really what we know is that there's not a set time frame. There's not like it's a 3 to 6 month process. There's nothing like that. And so what we want to make sure when we're talking about grieving properly, what we're really saying is grieving in your own way. Okay, so what that means is there's a myriad of feelings that you feel once you've lost someone. So if we're taking this pandemic as an example, what we're going through right now, schools were shut down and you are sent home. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of unknown. I imagine that it created a lot of anxiety for, moving on. What will next year look like? It could have created a lot of sadness, a lot of missed opportunities and memories of the end of the school year coming into the summer. So even there, we just identified 5 or 6 feelings that have to do with the pandemic. And I'm sure that each and every one of you feels a certain way. Some of you may have not been as sad, but may have been more angry, right? So that's perfectly okay too. The important piece to grieving properly is that you allow yourself to feel the way you do and to find productive and constructive ways of expressing those feelings. So if it's anger, sometimes the easy thing to do is to be irritable with everybody. We can just, kind of turn that off and want to shut everybody out and withdraw ourselves. But what's more important is getting that anger out, making yourself feel heard, but don't do it in a way that pushes away your support or a way that you're going to feel bad about later that you've acted, okay? Because the whole point of this is that if you don't allow yourself to grieve and to express those emotions, what they do, they can bottle up. A lot of times I do an exercise when I work with people about anger. And what we do is you take a Coke can and you shake it up and then you ask them to open it. Well, of course you don't open it. Why? Because it would just spray everywhere, right? It would explode. So that's what anger is, bottling up. And we can use that the same thing with grief, right? So if you have like we call them grief attacks or something like that just pops out of nowhere, that may be because you're not really dealing with those feelings and allowing yourself to express that in a way that is helpful to you. Sometimes we don't want to feel sad, or we don't want to feel angry, or we don't want to feel frustrated, and all of that's fine. You can use things to distract yourselves, whether it's playing games or going somewhere or talking to someone, all that's fine. But when you use that to distract yourself so much that you never allow yourself to deal with those feelings, it can actually lead to some long-term issues. So we talked about bottling up. So bottling up is one of the big ones, right? Where you feel like you're just going to explode. Another one is you can actually start to feel depressed. So if you feel like nobody else understands the way you feel, or you're feeling isolated from the world, not just physically with what we're going through right now, but like in our head, it can really cause us to really withdraw and feel like nobody understands us. And so that's another thing that we want to avoid, because nobody completely understands what you're going through and your experience, right? There's a lot of us right now in this pandemic that are going through similar things. And in, if you lose someone to cancer or disease, there are lots of people who have gone through that too, but nobody has gone through exactly what you have. But we don't have to have gone through the exact same experiences to know or to put ourselves in someone else's shoes and try to understand how they feel and try to support one another. And so it's okay if somebody doesn't understand exactly the way you feel. What is helpful is when they can put themselves in your shoes and empathize with you and support you in that way. So really, I just want to reiterate the importance of allowing yourself to find productive ways to get your emotions out. Because if we can do that, you will avoid a lot of the long-term effects that can lead to things like PTSD, long-term depression, anxiety issues. And we want to avoid that. So, there's lots of creative ways to express feelings. One is using a support system. So just having people to talk to, having, going to see a grief counselor, having a close friend that you can share anything with. Other ways are like mindfulness and meditation type ways. There's lots of apps, really cool apps that you can use that are helpful to, allowing you to explore the way you feel. Journaling activities, art activities, all sorts of different things. So, well, that's really all I had today. I hope that this video is helpful and informational to you, and thank you.